Have you ever just stared at a losing trade and thought to yourself, what am I doing wrong? I mean, you follow the rules, you read the charts, but your account is still bleeding red? Well, the shocking truth is, it's probably not your strategy that's failing. It's because most traders, and I mean most of us, are focused on completely the wrong things. So, let's get right into it, because today we're going to decode the 3 silent account killers holding you back and lay out the professional's blueprint to finally join that winning 10%.
Yeah, this is the number. The one that hangs over every trader's head. 90%. It's the statistic you hear everywhere, and it basically suggests that almost everyone who tries this is, well, doomed to fail. It's super intimidating, it's frustrating, and honestly, for a lot of people, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But what if we've been looking at this number all wrong?
Here's a really interesting take I've seen from traders who've been in the game a long time. They argue that this isn't a failure rate, it's a dropout rate. Think about it. Trading is one of the only professions out there with 0 barrier to entry. No degree, no official training, nothing. So people jump in, they expect to get rich in a few months, and when that fantasy doesn't happen, they just quit. They don't really fail, they just don't stick around long enough for the learning curve. And the data, well, it absolutely backs this up. Just look at these numbers. A crazy 40% of traders are gone within the first month. After 2 years, 80% have thrown in the towel. And after 5 years, only a tiny 7% are still playing the game. I mean, it takes years to become a doctor or an engineer. Why on earth would we think mastering the global financial markets would be any different? So the key takeaway here is this. Success isn't about never failing. It's about having the grit to just outlast everyone else.
Okay, so that brings us to our first silent killer. And trust me, it's a big one. It's that endless, obsessive hunt for the holy grail, that perfect, magical, no-loss trading strategy. So many new traders bounce from one system to the next, totally convinced that the next magic indicator is the secret key. But this whole chase is not only a massive waste of time, it's also based on a complete misunderstanding of how our own brains are wired.
All right, take a look at this. On the left, square A looks way darker than square B, right? It's obvious. But look at the image on the right. When you connect them with a solid bar of the exact same color, you see they're identical. It's crazy. What's happening is your brain is creating a story. It sees the shadow from the cylinder, and it actively changes the raw data to make the world make sense. This is precisely what we do when we stare at charts. We see the patterns we expect to see, not always what's actually there.
And this just drives the point home perfectly. I'm willing to bet you just read a bird in the bush. But look closer. I mean, really look. The word "the" is in there twice. Your brain just skipped right over it because it saw a familiar phrase. In trading, that habit of your brain filling in the blanks for you, it's absolutely lethal. And it's why chasing a perfect system is a fool's errand. You just can't perfectly interpret the markets with an imperfect brain.
So, if a perfect strategy isn't the answer, then what is? Well, that brings us to our second silent killer. Really bad risk management. This right here is the #1 reason traders blow up their accounts, period. It's not about being right all the time. It's about making sure that the times you are wrong don't take you out of the game for good. This is the golden rule. This is what separates professional traders from amateurs. You risk a small, totally manageable percentage of your entire account on any single trade. Now, this doesn't mean you only invest 1%. It means your potential loss on that trade is capped at 1 to 2%. This is the absolute bedrock of staying in business. Okay, so how do we actually do this? It's a really simple 3-step process. First, you figure out your maximum loss in dollars. So if you have a $10,000 account and you're using a 2% rule, that's $200. Easy. Second, you figure out the trade's downside. That's just the distance between where you get in and where your stop loss is. And finally, you just divide your max loss by that trade's downside. Boom! That tells you exactly how big your position should be.
Let's make this super real with an example. Say you've got that $10,000 account, so your max risk per trade is $200. You want to buy Filecoin at $5, and you set your I'm wrong point, your stop loss, at $4.60. That means your risk per share is 40 cents. So what's your position size? You take your $200 max loss, divided by that 40-cent risk, and the answer is 500 shares. That works out to a $2,500 position, way more than 2% of your account. But if the trade goes south and hits your stop, you only lose your predefined $200. That, my friends, is professional risk management.
And that's the whole philosophy right there. Using this rule, you can have 5, 6, even 7 losing trades in a row, and you're still totally fine, still in the game.
But it only takes one oversized, unmanaged loss to end your trading career. So this rule isn't about being timid, it's about being smart enough to stick around long enough to catch the big wins.
All right, let's talk about our third silent killer, and this is where the real war is fought, inside your own head. Because even if you have a good enough strategy and perfect risk management, you can still lose it all if you let your emotions grab the steering wheel. And the two biggest emotional monsters are FOMO and revenge trading. FOMO, the fear of missing out, is that pit in your stomach when a stock is going to the moon and you panic buy right at the top only to watch it reverse. And then there's revenge trading, which is even worse. You take a loss, you get angry, you feel like the market took your money, so you immediately jump into an even bigger trade to get it back. This almost always leads to a death spiral of bigger and bigger losses.
As the pro trader Niall Fuller puts it, trading is overwhelmingly a mental game. You can have the best chart setup in the world, but if your head isn't on straight, you will find a way to mess it up. Your mindset is your single greatest asset or your biggest liability.
And if you think you're immune to this stuff, just check this out. This study is incredible. It tracked the parole decisions of very experienced judges. At the beginning of the day, about 65% of prisoners were granted parole. But look what happens. That number steadily drops, hitting almost zero right before a break. Then, after they have some food, shoots right back up. It's a real thing called ego depletion. Our willpower is like a muscle that gets tired. If it happens to disciplined judges, you better believe it happens to traders staring at a screen all day.
Okay, so we've identified the enemies: chasing perfection, disastrous risk management, and emotional hijacking. It's time to stop the cycle of losing. So how do we actually defeat them? We need a blueprint. Let's lay out the professional's plan to finally get this right.
According to the research, truly successful trading is built on these 4 cornerstones. First is prudence, which is just that disciplined risk management we've been talking about. Then you need critical and strategic thinking. That's all about your planning and prep. Then there's daring and creativity, which is the courage to take those calculated risks. And finally, emotional capability, the skill of managing your own mind. You got to build strength in all 4 areas.
So what's the one tool that ties all of this together? Simple: a written trading plan. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's an absolute necessity. The data is crystal clear. Traders who have a documented plan outperform those who don't by a massive 25 to 40%. Your plan is your roadmap. It defines everything before the emotional heat of the moment kicks in.
And a critical part of that plan is keeping a detailed trading journal. Now, this is not just about logging your P&L. You need to write down why you took the trade, how you managed the risk, and most importantly, what you were thinking and feeling at the time. This is how you become a detective of your own behavior and spot those self-defeating patterns.
I mean, just looking at a real journal entry like this, you can see the process. Poor trading saw me cover. Rationale was fear of sharp price spike. This is where you have that brutally honest conversation with yourself. Your journal is the tool that lets you turn painful, expensive mistakes into profitable lessons for the future.
The legendary investor Ray Dalio built his entire company on this exact principle. He calls it his process of pain plus reflection. Look, losses are going to happen. They are inevitable. The traders who actually make it are the ones who systematically learn from those losses instead of just getting angry and repeating them.
So let's bring it all home. This is your path to joining the 10%. First, stop looking for a perfect strategy. It does not exist. Second, master that 1 to 2% risk rule. It is your lifeline. Third, conquer your emotions by sticking to a written plan. That plan is your fortress in the middle of a battle. And finally, start treating this like a serious business, not a trip to the casino.
In the end, it's not the market we have to conquer, it's ourselves. The charts and the numbers are just a big reflection of our own collective human psychology. The real opponent, the one you have to master every single day, is the person staring back at you from the screen. So the only question left is, are you ready to win that battle?